Holger Rune never intended to say it, but once the word slipped out, once that unconscious smile appeared on his face, once her name lingered in the space between him and the reporter, there was no way to undo it. A relaxed interview, an easy offhand question about other players, and then he spoke her name, Alex. The brief hesitation, the subtle shift in his gaze, the instant change in his entire presence. The tennis world caught every detail. And what followed would turn a quiet admiration into one of the most discussed moments in sports, igniting conversations about respect, acknowledgement, and what unfolds when two young stars bearing the expectations of their countries suddenly become the focus of an online storm neither of them ever sought. In professional tennis, some athletes carry more than personal ambition onto the court. They shoulder the hopes of whole nations, the pressure of millions, the strain of being the lone representative of their country at the elite level of an individual sport. That burden is overwhelming. It's lonely. It's something only a small number of athletes worldwide truly grasp. Holger Rune, the Danish prodigy known for his intense temperament and powerful backhand, had become exactly that figure for Denmark. At only 21 years old, he had already blasted his way into the ATP top 10, beaten several Grand Slam champions, and secured his place as one of the most thrilling and explosive young talents in men's tennis. His ascent wasn't merely rapid, it was essential. Denmark hadn't seen a tennis star of this caliber in generations, and Rune carried that responsibility like protective gear, competing in every match as though the pride of his entire nation rested on the result. Meanwhile, on the WTA tour, another rising player was facing her own version of pressure-filled fame. Alex E., the Filipino pathbreaker, had become far more than just a tennis athlete to the Philippines. She was a symbol, a trailblazer, a living proof of possibility for a country that had never before witnessed one of its own reach success at the highest tiers of tennis. She became the first Filipino to claim a Grand Slam title at any level when she won the U.S. Open Girls Singles Championship, the first to enter the WTA Top 200, then the Top 150, then the Top 100. Every match she competed in was never only about rankings or prize money. It was about demonstrating that a nation of more than 110 million people deserved a place among the elite ranks of professional tennis. Their careers had intersected from time to time at joint ATP WTA tournaments. The professional tennis tour is far smaller and more closely connected than most people realize. The same hotels, the same practice courts, the same player lounges where future Hall of Famers sit beside hopeful qualifiers, eating identical catered meals and rotating through the same ice baths. Rune and Eala moved within overlapping circles, sharing the same tournament environments around the globe, yet rarely standing under the same spotlight. He was the volatile prodigy chasing Masters 1000 trophies and Grand Slam breakthroughs. She was the relentless boundary breaker, battling through WTA 125 events and steadily climbing toward the main tour, earning progress one hard-fought win at a time. But this is what made their connection truly compelling to those who were paying attention. They embodied the very same archetype in entirely different settings. Both carried national expectations that would overwhelm lesser competitors. Both reached milestone achievements at remarkably young ages and were now steering through the dangerous, unforgiving challenge of fulfilling early promise. Both possessed the rare blend of technical excellence and mental resilience that distinguishes good players from those with the potential for greatness. And both, whether they ever said it aloud or not, understood the singular isolation of being their country's lone representative at the highest level of an individual sport, where there is no shelter and no one else to absorb the pressure. The tennis world, despite spanning every continent and including hundreds of athletes from dozens of nations, is surprisingly close-knit. Players notice one another. They follow each other's matches in locker rooms while receiving treatment from physiotherapists. They share practice courts and strength coaches. They pass one another in hotel hallways at 3 in the morning when jet lag makes sleep impossible. They understand, in ways outsiders and even close family members never fully can, exactly what the person across the net or across the locker room is going through, feeling, and sacrificing. So when young players accomplish something exceptional, when they shatter barriers or win matches they were never expected to win, their fellow competitors take notice. When Alex Eala captured key victories or opened new doors for Filipino tennis, other young players on tour noticed. They watched the highlights. They checked the results. They grasped the importance in ways the general audience often could not. And Holger Rune, despite competing on a different circuit, despite the physical and competitive separation between men's and women's tennis, despite having his own pressures and ambitions to manage, was one of the players closely following Alex Eala's rise. No one realized just how closely he had been watching. Not his team, not the media, not the tennis gossip pages that monitor every interaction between players. Not until that interview, not until the instant his carefully constructed professional image slipped just enough to expose something real, something unfiltered, something that felt to viewers like far more than simple professional admiration. Because in tennis, as in life, it is often the unscripted moments that reveal the deepest truths. The moments when preparation falls away and authenticity emerges. The moments when an athlete forgets, just briefly, that every word will be scrutinized, analyzed, and turned into content. This is the story of one of those moments and what it uncovered about admiration, pressure, and two young athletes navigating a tension neither of them anticipated. It was meant to be an entirely routine media obligation. The type of interview Holger Rune had completed hundreds of times before without giving it a second thought. A post-practice media session at a Masters 1000 tournament, the kind where reporters ask predictable questions and players deliver polished, rehearsed responses that reveal nothing noteworthy while still meeting contractual media duties. The environment was relaxed, a shaded spot near the practice courts with the steady thud of tennis balls echoing behind them as other players went through their drills. Rune sat in his training gear, calm, a towel resting around his neck, seemingly prepared to breeze through another 15 minutes of standard tennis talk before returning to the real task of preparing for his next match. The journalist opened with the expected questions, the ones that appear in nearly every pre-tournament interview. His preparation for the event, his thoughts on the draw, his recovery from a minor knee issue that had sidelined him at the previous tournament. Rune responded with the smooth confidence of someone who had done this countless times. Yes, he felt good. Yes, the knee was fully recovered. Yes, he was excited for the challenge, polished, professional, entirely forgettable. Then came the question that changed everything. Holger, you've spoken before about watching other young players on tour and learning from different styles. With the WTA also here this week for the combined event, are there any rising women's players whose games you admire or follow closely? It was intended as a filler question, the kind meant to occupy time and maybe produce a pleasant quote about tennis's next generation for a light feature piece. The journalist likely expected him to mention Coco Gauff, the obvious choice, or perhaps Myra Andreeva, the Russian teenager generating constant buzz. Safe answers, familiar names, players already dominating conversations. But Holger Rune didn't offer the expected response. Instead, he paused, and it wasn't an ordinary pause. Not the brief hesitation athletes use to craft a neutral answer or recall a name. This pause was different, longer. His eyes shifted slightly to the left, the involuntary movement people make when accessing genuine memory rather than reciting prepared remarks. And then he smiled, not his usual press smile, controlled and professional, revealing nothing. This smile was different, unconscious, almost shy. The smile of someone who had been asked about something they truly cared about and hadn't had time to put the professional mask back on. Eala, he said, and the name emerged more softly than his previous responses, carrying a warmth that was instantly noticeable to anyone paying attention. I think what she's doing for Filipino tennis is incredible. The way she competes in every match, the way she's had to qualify and grind through smaller tournaments to earn chances on the main tour, it's really impressive. The journalists, to their credit, sensed something unusual. You could hear it in the follow-up question, the hint of curiosity in their voice, the realization that they might have uncovered something more compelling than the routine interview they expected. You follow her results? Another pause. Rune shifted in his chair, and for a brief moment, the confident top 10 player looked exactly like what he truly was. The 21-year-old who had just been asked about someone he clearly thought about more than he intended to reveal. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of us do, he said, before continuing in a way that would become critical to what followed. She has a very complete game. Her movement is outstanding, and her mental strength, especially in close matches, that's something you can't teach. You either have it or you don't. She has it. What made this moment truly remarkable was the level of detail. Holger Rune wasn't offering vague praise. He wasn't saying she was talented or hardworking, the empty phrases athletes use when they don't actually follow someone's career but want to sound supportive. He referenced specific elements of Eala's game, her footwork, her composure under pressure. These weren't observations from a single highlight clip. This was the technical evaluation of someone who had watched her matches repeatedly, enough to form real opinions about her strengths and style. The journalist, now fully aware they had something special, pressed further. Have you two ever practiced together or talked about tennis? Rune's expression shifted again. He clearly realized that the conversation had drifted somewhere unexpected, that he had revealed more than he planned. We've talked a few times at tournaments, just normal player lounge conversations, but she's extremely dedicated. I respect that. And then he added the sentence that would become the most analyzed, debated, and discussed statement across tennis social media for the following week. She's someone I think is going to surprise a lot of people. She has everything it takes to break into the top 50, maybe even higher. And when she does, people will understand how special she really is. When she does, not if, when, that confidence, that specific forecast, that personal belief in another player's future success. That was the moment the interview shifted from a routine media obligation into something the tennis internet would obsess over for days. The interview continued for several more minutes, returning to safer subjects like serve mechanics and match strategy. But the damage, or the revelation depending on perspective, had already occurred. The words were spoken, the tone had been noticed, the smile had been captured on video. Within an hour, the clip was online. Within 2 hours, it was spreading across tennis Twitter. tennis Instagram, tennis TikTok, every corner of the tennis internet where fans gather to analyze, debate, and overanalyze their sport. Within 3 hours, Filipino tennis fans were creating compilation videos titled things like Holger Rune shows respect to Alex Eala set to emotional music. Within 6 hours, tennis gossip pages were posting side-by-side images of Rune and Eala, with captions speculating on what it all meant. Holger had unintentionally done what professional athletes are trained to avoid. He had shown something genuine, something personal, something that felt to viewers like far more than standard professional respect. The tennis internet was about to completely lose its composure. And this was only the beginning of a story that would ignite discussions about respect, recognition, media narratives, gender dynamics in sports, and the delicate line between admiration and invasion of privacy. If there is one thing tennis fans excel at, a skill perfected through years of off-season boredom and rain delays, it is investigation. And when Holger Rune's interview surfaced, when that clip began circulating through every tennis community online, the tennis internet transformed into something resembling an elite investigative unit. Except instead of solving crimes, they were unraveling the mystery of how deep Rune's admiration for Alex Eala truly went, and how long it had gone unnoticed. It began simply on Twitter, as these stories often do. A Filipino tennis fan account shared the interview clip with the caption, "Holger talking about Alex Eala with that smile," followed by, "I see you, Holger." Within minutes, tweets flooded in. Each added another observation, another detail, another connection. The way he paused before saying her name, he said, "When she does, not if she does, I'm losing it." Athletes don't speak about peers like this unless there's something more. But the real deep dive began when someone decided to scroll through Holger Rune's social media history with the goal of finding every interaction he had ever had with Alex Eala. That was when things became genuinely interesting. A user uncovered a post from 7 months earlier, a training photo Alex Eala had shared from Spain. It was a routine athlete post. A mid-swing photo, a caption about hard work, a few sponsor tags. Nothing unusual, except buried deep in the comments, 73 entries down where few would ever look, was a single fire emoji from Holger Rune's verified account. At the time, no one noticed. Rune had hundreds of thousands of followers. Eala had far fewer. One emoji could easily disappear into the noise of social media. But now, in the context of that interview and his clear familiarity with her game, that single emoji felt like proof of something hiding in plain sight. Then another interaction surfaced. A story Alex had posted 5 months earlier celebrating her first WTA main draw victory. She tagged the tournament and sponsors as usual, but according to a screenshot that somehow leaked from someone on her close friends list, Holger Rune's account appeared among the viewers. Instagram doesn't publicly show story viewers, but the image spread quickly as evidence that Rune had been following her progress more closely than anyone realized. The investigation escalated. A tennis photographer's archive, buried deep in their Instagram feed, revealed a photo from Indian Wells, a combined ATP WTA event. It wasn't focused on any player, just a background shot of practice courts, but visible upon closer inspection were Holger Rune and Alex Eala waiting for courts, clearly engaged in conversation. They were smiling. Their body language was relaxed and familiar. The photo had been taken 4 months earlier. It had received barely 40 likes at the time, lost among countless practice court images. Now it was being shared thousands of times with captions speculating about what they were talking about and how he was looking at her. YouTubers who specialized in tennis drama began releasing videos with increasingly sensational titles. Holger Rune's secret crush exposed. Why Alex Eala has the attention of ATP stars. The algorithm amplified the content, pushing it to massive audiences who might never have followed either player before, suddenly drawn into a narrative of young tennis stars and possible romance. TikTok became its own universe of speculation. Editors created romantic montages combining footage from Rune's matches with clips from Eala's matches, set to trending songs about hidden admiration and unspoken feelings. One viral video compared their playing styles, pointing out similarities in positioning and shot selection, suggesting they may have discussed tactics together. That video surpassed 2.3 million views. Reddit's tennis community, known for its analytical approach, launched a megathread titled "The Rune Eala Situation: Everything We Know." Users compiled every interaction, every overlap, every tournament where they were in the same city. Someone noted they had both trained at the Muratoglu Academy at different times, fueling speculation that they may have known of each other even earlier. Another user found an old interview where Eala mentioned practicing with male players to improve her power. Could Rune have been one of them? The Filipino tennis community was experiencing something completely unprecedented. Alex Eala had placed their country on the global tennis map through her accomplishments. Her junior Grand Slam victory, her steady climb up the WTA rankings, her role as a trailblazer. But this felt different. This involved one of the ATP's most prominent young stars, a top 10 player, publicly praising her with a level of detail and warmth that came across as deeply personal. Filipino sports talk shows dedicated full segments to analyzing what it meant. Morning radio programs in Manila debated it at length. It was no longer just tennis news. It had become entertainment news, relationship speculation, and national pride all blended into one compelling narrative. But not everyone was cheering. And as the speculation reached a boiling point, as the content machine shifted into overdrive, a backlash began to emerge that raised serious questions about how this entire situation was being framed and what it exposed about deeper issues within tennis media. Some of Eala's most loyal supporters began asking why this was even considered a story worthy of so much attention. She is an outstanding athlete on her own. One viral tweet stated, "She doesn't need approval from a male player to be deserving of attention." The fact that this is what finally brings her international recognition is honestly disappointing. The post received 15,000 likes and ignited a parallel debate about whether the intense focus on Rune's comments was actually diminishing Eala's individual accomplishments by framing her significance through a man's praise rather than her own achievements. Danish fans had their own mixed responses. Some found it refreshing that their tennis star revealed a genuine human side, that he wasn't merely a competitive machine but someone who noticed and respected other athletes. Others worried it was turning into a distraction. Holger should be concentrating on his own game, not on WTA players. One comment on a Danish tennis forum read, "He's had an uneven season. This is the last thing he needs taking over his media narrative." Tennis journalists, the professionals who have covered the sport for major publications and witnessed thousands of player interactions over decades, found themselves in a rare dilemma. Was this actually a story worth pursuing? One respected reporter tweeted, "I've covered tennis for 20 years. Players admire each other all the time, but the way Rune spoke about Eala, that mix of precise technical insight and genuine belief in her future success, I honestly can't recall hearing one player speak about another quite like that." The speculation hit its peak when someone noticed that both Rune and Eala were entered into an upcoming combined event scheduled 2 weeks later. The possibility of them being at the same tournament, potentially giving interviews where they might be asked about each other, potentially being photographed together under intense scrutiny, became the tennis internet's most anticipated subplot of the season. Fan accounts started countdown timers. 14 days until Rune and Eala are at the same tournament. Betting markets that normally focus solely on match results began offering wagers on whether they would be photographed together. The situation had taken on a momentum far beyond anything either athlete could have foreseen. But there was one thing absolutely no one anticipated: the serious backlash that was forming. The critical voices that would compel everyone to question whether this fixation was harmful, intrusive, and revealing of deeper flaws in how tennis, and especially women's tennis, is covered.